Hey, Scotty's Rail. I want you guys to check out my favorite show, Experimentally Ill.
I remember things. It's more than just void, darkness, unconsciousness. The mind does work. There are images, patterns, things to recollect. It's not just the long, deep sleep that comes when the fear has left. The cold is felt, the slipping away of feeling is noted and then succumbed to. The mind functions. Time is distorted, jumbled, telescoped, accordion, but there is a sense of time even so. And I remember things. I remember the way it began. I remember the way it was and it was and it was and it was in the beginning.
Daddy, I think he's lost his mind. He's never been like this before. Tonight he was almost raving.
What did you say?
Oh, crazy things, that he's some kind of a spaceman and that they're taking over the Earth and that we're all going to die.
They told me to keep in mind the scientific and
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your pal Michael Fallon O'Toole here for another Experimentally Ill podcast. It's been a while. It's episode 120, and we're recording on October 2nd, 2025 at the fabulous Cambridge Community Television facilities where we've created so many experimentally ill movies. It's cool to be back here doing the podcast. Got to check us out, experimentallyIll.com. We also have a YouTube page, of course, youtube.com/experimentallyIll. And really excited. If you've been to the Boston Open Screen in the past couple of years, at least for Experimentally Ill, myself and co-producer Lawrence Holly, we've been showing stuff consistently since 2023. And somewhere around there, maybe a little bit later than that, ran into this man, James Ristas. Ristas?
Ristas?
Ristas. I ruined.
You have to get it right once to the beginning, and you have to say it again.
It's James Ristas.
Ristas, yeah.
Who, of course, as we talk to many filmmakers here on the Experimental podcast, he is a filmmaker. He's currently working out of Marlborough, Massachusetts, the arts capital of the world. And you attended the New York Film Academy, Director's Workshop, class of 97. Just in case anyone was doubting his credentials, he does have a degree in radio, TV, and film from South Dakota.
South Dakota State University, yes.
Right.
I'd like to brag, but you know.
That's right. If you were doubting his CV. And of course, as I know him, and I'm sure many people who are fans of the underground kind of New England arts, indie film scene. I mean, your short film RAMGOG has been on the festival circuit for the last year and was nominated for the Delta Award at the 2024 Festival of Fantastic Films in Manchester, UK. So you're making your way out of New England.
That award actually has a wiki entry. I was so excited.
Okay. I'm still doing your intro here, though. It's long here. Let's see. That's right.
You got all the main points.
That's right. But distinct from RAMGOG, which I think that's a live action piece, right? Mm-hmm. You have what I know you from and what Boston Open Screen fans at the Coolidge Corner Theater, the second Tuesday of every month, 7 p.m. Will know you from is mainly, I think, the animated series Passion of RAMGOG, and over here at CCTV Cambridge. Ties in because it's going to run I think it's a marathon that's going to start on, it's next week?
It was last week, actually.
It was last week, last Friday, so you can check it out right now. And it was 2:30 p.m. to 5, is it 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. on CCTV, Channel 8? And the main thing we're talking about, it's coming up, it's a live event. James is doing the exhibition of RAMGOG, which is a gallery showcase to be held at Industry Lab in Cambridge on the evening of Saturday, the 18th of October, and that's a free event where you're going to premiere the new short RAMGOG vs GOGMAR. We can talk about that because I watched it earlier. Many questions. For more information, of course, you can go to passionoframgog.com. .org. Sorry.
I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry.
That's right. This is still the intro.
Yeah.
James Ristas.
Yeah.
No, I mean, is it presumptuous? Is it offensive if I say that many people would know you as I do as the RAMGOG guy?
That's fine. It's not about me, man. It's about RAMGOG. You know?
That's right. I mean, I know the first question, right? What the fuck is actually RAMGOG? And I've seen several RAMGOG films, and that's still my question. So I think people who have no idea what it is. I mean, a lot of the times here on the podcast, we'll talk about, like we have this set up here. It's not officially a therapy session, but we'll try within the time that we have. We'll try to kind of unpack some of this. But my impressions of the RAMGOG animation, and then there's like the there's more than one of a live action RAMGOG. Right, there's three. So yeah, is black and white, and it was like a persistent nightmare that was happening to me in the audience, and the sort of apocalyptic themes, or sort of there's some Christianity sort of Adam and Eve sort of parallels, and sort of RAMGOG is sort of this creature or something. Well, I'll let you talk about what this actually is.
Well, the first one, the whole thing started out with this first one that I did. It's the longest live action. It's 20 minutes, and it's just about the world disappears, and there's only two people left, a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. And they're confused and they're despairing and they don't know what happened. And then the RAMGOG character lands on the planet, and they have a back and forth, and he explains to them why there's darkness, and then he confesses to them that it's not giving too much away because it gets into the how and the why, but he is responsible for the world disappearing. And by the end, he tries to bring it around so that things start over again. I mean, yeah, the black and white and apocalyptic things, it is sort of dark and creepy, I guess. But also, my intention, at least bringing it around, is that there is something hopeful and redeeming and happy about it. It's not like, despair and awful the whole time. Like, I think that's part of the spiritual, I dare say, maybe religious theme that's running through it, because I'm hoping that each one ends on a certain note of, I don't want to say hope, but a positive, basically a positive note. I mean, as good as you can feel with that aesthetic. I don't want people to be like dragged down by it.
Yeah. So then the RAMGOG versus GOGMAR. Was there like sort of a because it's either that one or like an earlier where there's sort of RAMGOG, there's like a good and evil, like a counterpart to RAMGOG, or he's sort of having a conversation with another comparable character, I think, trying to like negotiate with him or something.
Well, the thing was, the whole animated series happened sort of by accident, was because I really like to storyboard everything, and I shoot 16, and when you do that, you really have to storyboard, because it costs like $20 a minute. So you don't do a lot of takes, and you want to really make sure you're getting what you're getting. So I usually did that by hand on paper. That's the way I've been doing it the whole time. But then I thought I would try to do an animated version, just basically pre-visualized with just very, very limited animation of just what the next one was going to look like, the RAMGOG versus GOGMAR. So I started just putting it together as an animated pre-visualization tool, and I suddenly discovered that Premiere Pro, which is not designed to be particularly an animation platform, there was a lot you could do, and just like learning any animating program, the more you do, you learn, you pick up stuff, you figure out your own ways of doing it, and in pretty short order, I'd figured out how to do some pretty dynamic stuff, and then I was incorporating the green screen and the transitions and stacking things so that you have multiple things going on in each frame. So I finished the pre-visualization for the RAMGOG versus GOGMAR, and at the time, I thought I was going to have to wait like 6-7 months before I could shoot it. So I was kind of idle. So I made one. I sort of made up as I went along the very first episode. But I know that I have the stamina to just keep doing stuff. I don't really have a whole hell of a lot else to do in my life, to tell you the truth. So I just put, number 1 of 100. I'm like, I'll just do 100.
Right. That's sort of the unintentional. The unintentional comedy is sort of dare I say, is sort of it's awesome because it was when you first started. I think you'd maybe been at the Boston Open Screen event, which is how I know you from over at the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline, Mass, which is a great way for other short filmmakers in the area to show their work. And my friend Lawrence Holly is also out in L.A. There's a Open Screen L.A. that one of the guys who was friends with the gentleman who do Boston Open Screen went out and puts it on there. But yeah, when you see this sort of very ethereal and my interpretation is it's sort of this somewhat nightmarish beast come on, and then it's I think in the block you get 10 minutes, so I think sometimes you show a couple of them. So it'll always say like like number 13 of 100, and you're like, wow, this is preordained. Like this really is.
Well, I knew I was gonna, because when I was younger, I used to draw. I used to do comic books, you know, and I was able to sustain that for years. Yeah. So I like I said, I just know that if I'm idle, I'll do something. So anyway, but of course I didn't have 100 episodes planned out. So when you were talking about
it's like working backwards.
Well, I did the first one, and it was and I knew that I had already created the second character, which is GOGMAR, which is RAMGOG backwards. It's all this whole like
it's a Bizarro or who's the Reverse Flash?
It is. It's Bizarro Reverse Flash. Like RAMGOG is like black body, silver mask, silver body, black mask, and whatever RAMGOG says, GOGMAR's going to say the opposite. I mean, you need to have conflict for any kind of story.
Right. That's
so I'm on episode 2, and I've just got this fucking. Sorry, we swear on this thing. Yeah. All right. I just got this fucking monkey, and he's like sitting in a spaceship. He's been disembodied. Like in the first episode, these things are only 2 minutes long, by the way. But you'd be surprised how long it takes to cram.
That's right.
Into 2 minutes animated. I mean, it's a lot. But by the end of it, he like shoots his soul out of his body, and it's like flying around. And I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with this? So I'm like, all right, why don't I just take this character who's just like the opposite of the main character and just have him push back on like every single thing the other guy does just to create a little conflict there.
The antagonist.
Yeah. He's just like, the one guy's like up, the guy's like down, red, blue, just to keep something going.
Well, it actually is, that is what I say is cool about it, is in like a very short amount of time, we understand like, okay, this guy, well, he's sort of the antagonist was like very clearly that counterpoint is like really clear. Yeah. But then like you say, like RAMGOG, I'm not totally there's sort of some he's like a little bit kind of anti-hero or part bad guy too. He's like a little bit threatening too.
Like I was definitely finding it as I went along. Like in the first, because the other thing is all the images in the shorts are production stills from the movie. Mm-hmm. So in the movie, the first one, he's like very benevolent, like he's very like elevated and spiritual and philosophical. Like he is absolutely a good character. He's a nurturer. He's almost like an angel, which is not really that interesting to and it worked when he was dealing with these other characters who were confused and asking questions.
Right. It was sort of he's guiding, or it seems maybe later on is sort of critical of, like you say, it's like the last two humans, I guess, or a man and a woman.
Like the guy, the guardian angel, not like God, but like like Gabriel or Michael or somebody who's a little more, a little more nuanced, not quite like floating ethereal kind of character. So, and again, I was just finding it as I went along, and if I needed something to happen, I would just have to, blow something up or get into a fight or kill somebody or something, and then at a certain point, the RAMGOG character crash lands on this planet, and I set up this other character to be the new antagonist. But as I'm going along, all of a sudden I decide that this new antagonist has got this like flock of robot birds that are
as one does.
Yes, of course. I mean, if you're gonna be a villain, you got to get an army to back you up. So he's got these birds that have been like sleeping under the planet for 1 million years, and they are awakened with him when RAMGOG slams the planet with a rock. We're about 20 minutes in at this point. So anyway, now I've got these two characters, RAMGOG and the Beak, who are fighting, and now I've got these birds. And I'm like, all right, what am I going to do now? So I'm like, how about I have the birds go after the Beak, because they're pissed at him for fucking them over about something. So now the birds are angry at the Beak. So Beak and RAMGOG have to fight the birds now. So then the birds become the enemies, and then RAMGOG and the Beak are like, they're not friends, but it's like my enemy is my enemy. And that just keeps happening because I have a general idea of what I want to do and how I want to get there. I'll see maybe a few episodes ahead. But it happens all the time. Like, none of these characters really have alliances. I mean, they all have their own agenda. But the minute one of them steps out of line, then everybody like gangs up on that one. And just to keep conflict going, you know?
But there is like a story that is progressing, or is it kind of like a comic book where those characters are kind of static, or is there?
It's one big story, because I think what happens is that I'll get a few episodes in, and then it'll just either something will pop up, or I'll figure out what the long-term goal is. So for the first one, the first 25 episodes is like an arc, and that one started about this battle with this planet. So the very first one, the characters get sucked into this planet because the planet wants something, and nobody really knows what it is. And then a few, maybe 5-10 episodes in, you turn out that the planet is like, it's lovelorn, and the Beak is in love with the planet, but the planet...
Yeah.
You didn't get that? You saw this one? I showed you. You don't remember? So like basically it's a love triangle between the two characters and the planet. So like the planet wants RAMGOG and the Beak wants the planet. But the planet...
So is that the latest one?
No. This is like the first 10 episodes. You saw this one.
Okay.
So they're all fighting over the love of this planet, and the planet is also kind of like Solaris. The planet is reacting to so there's one scene where RAMGOG is like, fuck this planet. This planet is ugly. This planet's a piece of shit. And the planet actually starts to freeze because it's heartbroken, and then they all get frozen in the planet, and they're frozen there for like 7 million years in this heartbroken planet. And then Gogmar shows up, and so it's just like... So anyway, that was the whole thing, the battle planet. So we get to episode 25 in the first arc, and that's when the planet gets cut in two and splits. Okay, so that's the end of the planet arc. And then between 25 and 50 is when these birds show up, and they want RAMGOG to take them to the promised land. And they're floating by on one half of the planet from the beginning. And now the birds are trying to get to this destination that they want to go to. So 25 and 50 is the voyage to the promised land with the remnants of the disaster at the end of the first 25. And then right now I'm working on episode 69. So on episode 50...
It's the most salacious episode.
It is. I mean, you talk about the planet and the three-way with the planet and the robots. This is going to get nasty. So at the beginning of 50, they arrive at the promised land, and then, these characters, they don't realize, this is kind of cool, I think, is that at the end of the first section, at the end of 25, the planet gets split in two, and you're only following the characters who are on one half of the planet. So they're supposed to go to the promised land, but when I'm just going to spoil this because
Let's talk about the process.
Even
of
if
this.
people are watching this, they're not going to understand what the fuck is going on anyway. So
what's really impressive though is for like such a short, like we talk about low budget filmmaking, like obviously you have like a great understanding of like the importance of like world building, like that you have that mythology. Like, do you keep track? Do you have your own little Bible to keep track of this?
No, I have a philosophy of world building, and I'll tell you, because a lot of times people will start out with a map or a world, and then they'll release their characters into it. But when you do that, in my opinion, you wind up with so much superfluous shit, Yeah. You're like, oh, here are the mountains of, whatever. And it's like, it plays no role. Like it's on the map and it's an idea. So my thing was, insofar as world creating, you only create what you need at the time. So I started out with one dude and one ship flying around. And then when he had to astral project, I'm like, okay, well, where's his like chi gonna go? So now I got to create another character. So I think the dramatically strongest thing is to do as much as you can with as little as possible. I mean, if you've got a really good conflict between two characters, just stick with that because that's intense. You don't bring in other characters or other elements until you absolutely need them. So
I think that is the conflict between just the two characters is the most memorable.
And you want to sustain that, but at a certain point, it's just two guys knocking their heads together. So I think that there is a world, and then there is a thing about the RAMGOG, but it's expanding out of necessity. Like I'm only gonna introduce as much as I need. So it has gotten bigger, but I'm actually trying to keep the world small. I don't want any like superfluous stuff in there. Like I have enough to keep track of at this point. Yeah. It's like throwing a whole bunch of other shit in there. Because I do want it all, like at 100, I do want it all to sort of conclude nicely. Basically, there's only one element that I've let hang. There's only one element. There's one loose end that I have there that I got to address. It's going to be tough. But other than that, I think I got a good idea of how to hold it all together. Sure. Yeah. Well, do you want to talk a little bit about sort of the origins to getting into this? I know I don't know a ton of your background, but I know like you worked in like a film lab, I think, and stuff like that. And you've always been into movie making and stuff like that. I'm very fortunate in that, I'm almost 50, but when I got into filmmaking, I really got to experience firsthand the transition from complete like home movies into just in terms of the gear, the accessibility. So I started making my first movies when I was like 6 or 7 with my dad's. This was before I had like a VCR in my house. We were shooting Super 8 on a Super 8 camera that we shot my freaking parents' wedding on. It's like 2 minutes. So I was doing that. There's no sound. There was no editing. You just it would drive me nuts because my friends would like blow a take, and I'm like, that's it. The movie's fucking done. Like I can't take it out. It's over. Right. So and then you just had to use it. Yeah, you're done. And then from there we got VHS. So now I have sound. I have more. There's a lot more you can do. But then when I edited, I had to take there and sit and put the camera on the ground in front of the VCR that we used in our house. And I would have to go back and I would have to cut my movie between the camera and the VCR. And you had to figure out the timing just right because you couldn't do clean cuts. And then, it was just a nightmare because every time you ran it through, you'd lose another generation of picture and sound quality. And then you'd have to run it through again to do all the dubbing and the music. So by the time you were done, your master copy of the movie was already like a 5th or 6th generation of the original. It just looked and sounded like shit. Yeah. And then that was something that you were going to make dupes of to show people. And then if you're going to show that on local access television, then you add another, because back then local access television isn't what it is now. So you do all this work and it's crap. It sucked. So then from there, I went to Super 8 cassette, which was much easier. It was basically the same technology, only it was a lot smaller, more versatile, and you could do a lot more. So then I did the whole thing, same process again, but this time I had little Super 8 cassette equipment, tiny thing. And then from there, I went to the New York Film Academy, and that's where they taught me 16. But again, it was no sync sound. It was basically just like a Super 8 at a higher gauge with a better image resolution. But, that's where they taught me the exposures and lighting and all the other stuff. It was just like a workshop. It was a certificate program, it's just 8 weeks, summer 97. And then after that, I went back to doing a little bit of Super 8. I was in school. We were using the TV cameras, and they had a debunked. Because I went to South Dakota State just because I wanted to go to South Dakota, and we got there. I'm like, "Do you guys have any film cameras?" They're like, "Yeah." And they open up this back closet, and there's like these bits and pieces of Aries all over the place. So a buddy of mine, we had just like reassemble one of these cameras just to use it. Yeah. And then we shot a terrible movie out there. And we almost got arrested because in South Dakota, everybody has like guns. You just do. Yeah. And people don't care about you having guns, but what they do care about is you hunting on private land. Right. So we drove out into the middle of this like road in the middle of nowhere, and we had this actor. It was all these freaking emo people. He was dressed like fucking Marilyn Manson with like the leather. It's summertime in South Dakota. It's like leather jacket and glasses and chains and shit. And he's waving my shotgun at this kid in the street. I mean, it's not loaded, but it's a real gun. So of course we look and we start seeing people just like car stops. And we're like, all right, we got to get the hell out of here. This happens all the time. So we all pile in and we drive away. And as we're going in the opposite direction, they sent like one of those wagons. Like they didn't send a police car. They sent like a paddy wagon. Let's get all of them. Like a UPS truck, like the sheriff's department. Like they were ready to round us up. Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, I'm glad we got out of there. But that, and that happens in Massachusetts too. But they're not nearly they're not as aggressive, Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so basically, I finally found what I like to do, which is 16. And then, but like I said, it's gotten so much easier. It's gotten so much better. I'm so grateful that the technology is so readily available. It's so I can cut a whole movie on your Mac now. Like I can sit there on a laptop. Before it took it's like almost like NASA. Like you had these huge computers. So
yeah, even just the render time is like totally cut down now for editing. And like I was saying, Lawrence and I do the experimental eel movies.
Yeah.
Just a lot of it was on our cell phone, iPhone, and if you're resourceful, you can.
It's incredible because even just people to see it. Like my distribution scheme when I was younger was like I would make VHS copies and I would mail them out to people, my friends, and somehow this was really disheartening. I would come home and they had boomeranged. I don't know how they all wound back at my house again. Like all the movies they all came back somehow, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, It's just and there was and you couldn't send it anywhere because back then you had to have a movie on film. Like nobody showed anything other than that medium. So if you even wanted to get your stuff shown beyond, you could do local access like a festival, you had to have, a celluloid negative, you had to have a work print, which was so ridiculously prohibitively expensive. That's the only reason I went out to LA in the first place when I finished college, was because at the time, that was really the only places where you had access to the kind of resources that people have now everywhere. So had I graduated from college, 10, 15 years later, I never would have gone out there because everything's here now, You don't need to go all the way out there to find the resources and the... like when I was in South Dakota, I was trying to put a movie together, and I had this actor all lined up, and I'm like, where are you going? He's like, I'm not going to do the movie. I'm like, what, why? And he's like, I'm going to go kill chickens today. I'm like, what? Yeah, like he chose that was what he was going to do instead. And at that point, I'm like, I got to get out of here. Like, I can't make movies
Well, because they're not dedicated
enough. They're just like, whatever. I'm going to go. I'm not going to do that. Like, you don't realize the preparation that goes in. So we went out and killed chickens, and I'm like, all right, well, I got to go find somebody who's a little more committed than this. And I couldn't find them out there,
I guess that's what I was going to ask you, is that if you have... I guess you have, for the live action, the RAMGOG stuff, I mean, you see, I know like you're the driving force kind of this stuff, but you have at least like a small crew of people, or you're working with actors, like you say, it can be difficult sometimes, but...
It seems to my whole life has been this pattern where, it's starting maybe in 8th grade, that like, I'll have this like... idea to like let's make some movies, and then gradually a small group of people will sort of gravitate
toward it.
And some of them want to do the movies themselves. Some of them just like the process, and then every 5 or 6 years, the whole thing gets blown apart, usually because of me. So
fair warning.
Yeah, no, like last time I like fucked the wrong person, and the whole thing blew up.
Yeah.
So this group now is the RAMGOG thing is like the first RAMGOG movie was the last remnants of my last group, and now the new ones are like the new team that's come together. And even then, I had to boot one of them. Well, I didn't have to boot him, but he really let me down. And I let him know it, and he just like, fine, fuck you, and he bounced. But that's okay. I'd only known that guy for about 15 years. So this group I have now, I feel really, really good about it. I think it's good people. I'm hoping that they'll stick around. For longer than the usual 4 or 5 years. I just got to be on my best behavior. I just got to stop,
Yeah. And still, RAMGOG is still, you're in the long haul for RAMGOG, or were there any other stories or characters that you were driven to from?
Well,
this is just the most well-known piece.
Well, the stuff that I had done up to this point was, just like what people do. They have different ideas, I mean, there were certainly some, recurrent themes. I made a feature about a mad Catholic saint who really was not very good. But you would go from topic to topic, Whereas what I love so much about the RAMGOG thing is that, they're very easy to make in the sense that, you have to do some live sound, but you can more or less rewrite the movie in post if there's anything you don't need, because I do all the voices. Like I'll just, if I need something, I'll just stick his face on there.
That's what I was going to ask you.
So they're easy to do, and because they're not strict SF or strict fantasy, if there's anything I want to do, I can just do it as a RAMGOG movie. I mean, I could do a fucking rom-com. Or like a couple's
that's
movie.
Right. I was going to say, I think that's what's interesting too, because I definitely respect, like you say, the world building, and that was something I took a lot of screenwriting classes at Grub Street over in the Seaport District in Boston, and I think that's something as far as writing. I mean, a lot of our experimental eel stuff is improvisational stuff, kind of as ourselves more or less, but. Some of the other stuff, I kind of fancied myself a writer, but I think world building is something that people take for granted, that the level of detail that's in there. So that's awesome. But I think also the RAMGOG, my experience as an audience member for RAMGOG is like, you can kind of appreciate it on sort of two levels. Like, if you want to get invested in that deep world, you can definitely engage with that. But I think, to me, like, for fans, like I say, sort of the weird, like, underground or experimental film fans, it sort of washes over you in the best, I mean it in the best possible way. It's an experience that you're having, you know?
The only sort of regret I have now is that I think maybe I wish I had made each episode a little bit longer, because they're almost exactly 2 minutes each, and all that starting and stopping, you know, it's like 2 minutes, boom, it stops, then another one starts, you know. I think that can get really exhausting, almost like you. Well, it's almost like a hiccup, you know. I think you can only take like 3 or 4 of them at a time.
But I also was thinking of it would be good for, I mean, certainly shows like the open screen where you get that 10-minute slot, or shorter shows, and it also could be like a proof of concept. You know, you could show, hey, you know, if this could be longer if we had more of a budget or something. Or...
Yeah, well, the other, because again, it's in terms of a proof of concept, what's neat about that I really like about this is that a lot of times, you know, people will make something as a proof of concept, and they'll say, you know, this is what I can do, give me more money and I'll, whereas this is what it is. Like if somebody gave me like $1 million to make a RAMGOG movie, it would look the same as it does now. You know, it's 16, it's, you know, that's what it is. Like I wouldn't want it to make.
It would just star Robert Downey Jr. as RAMGOG.
Or something. I don't know. I wouldn't even put his face on it. He'd have to do the voiceover. So it's neat because it's not. It is what it is. Like it's not. It wouldn't be anything any different. So as far as proof of concept, you know, maybe at some point if I start, you know, looking around needing money, but I wouldn't. It wouldn't. I don't think it would work in any other medium. Like I think if you actually spent a lot of money on this the way you would spend on any other project, I don't think it would work because you can't. I don't know. I just think it's really it's tied so much to the medium, the 16 and the animation, the style that I just sort of accidentally developed out of necessity. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the kind of your influences, your inspirations. Is there something that was similar to like the style of RAMGOG, or something you liked? I mean, I know when we went to the Bob White documentary screening earlier, our buddy Bob White, who's a filmmaker from the Boston Open Screen at the Coolidge, also a Simmons College professor. He does his animations. The Bumbling Gentleman was really funny.
The butts and the boobs.
But that's right. Those are his inspirations.
Yeah, it's very exciting,
amongst many.
You know, I like it.
But I think you were talking about of course, asking about where he gets his ideas.
Yeah.
I think we were talking about David Lynch or something like that. You know.
Yeah.
There's definitely like sort of a, like I said, nightmarish, but you could say dreamlike quality to the RAMGOG movies too.
Yeah, it's tough really because you know, because Eraserhead is such a seminal movie, you know, for the underground scene and everything. It's almost like if you do anything in black, like if you do anything in black and white that's slightly weird, you know, people are going to compare it to Eraserhead. Right. So it's like Pi, you know, it was completely it was a completely different thing, but because it was black and white, everybody's inevitably making the comparison to Eraserhead. So, I mean, I really like David Lynch a lot. And you know, you go through like, I mean, everybody gets inspired to create, you know, when you're young, like, you know, like when I wanted to make slasher movies, and then Reservoir Dogs came out, and I gave all my friends guns, and we're shooting each other and like saying all this weird dialogue that makes no sense. And then after that, I got into David Lynch. So now we're skulking around college, you know, we're shooting in dark corners, and we're putting everything to the soundtrack of Lost Highway. But I think that as you work through your influences, you begin to develop your own sort of style.
Voice. Yeah, by now it's just
so. By now, I'm hoping you're blind to it. You're so close to it that you don't like honestly, like when I do these RAMGOG movies, I'm not trying to be, you know, mysterious or. It's a failure on my part, really, because I'm trying to be as clear as I possibly can. Like, I'm looking at this, and I'm like, what could be simpler? And people are like,
well, that was my favorite part about that, when you're like, wait, you didn't, but you watched it. That was the one. That was the one where the 5 characters fall in love with the planet.
I know. It wasn't obvious to you that the guy was trying to fuck the planet? And you're like, no.
I thought it was all.
What's wrong with you?
And then I assume it was a metaphor, but you're like, it's right there.
Yeah, it's right in front of you.
Well, you talked about the importance of storyboarding. That was your big thing.
I mean, that's I could go on and on about how important that is. People say, you know, who are anti-storyboard, they're like, it ruins the spontaneity, and that's not true at all. It's a net. You know what I mean? It's a net, and it helps things go so much smoother. You know where to put the camera when you set up. And again, if something happens along the way that's better, then you do that. But at least you have a solid foundation. The one thing I can't stand, because I help people with movies sometimes, is like they show up, and everybody's there. You know, you're paying people, the clock is running, and they're like, okay, where are we going to put the camera? And then they start blocking, and I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like, my philosophy is that there's anything you can do on your own, you do it. Don't do it when anybody else is around. Don't do it when you're paying people. Don't do it when people are standing around. You know, you go to the set, you take your reference pictures, you do your storyboards. You know, I have this exhibition coming up in a week and a half, and I bought these mannequins that we're gonna dress as the characters, right? I dressed them already, and I'm not going to dress them when we get there for setup. You know, you do it because I can do that by myself. I don't need to use anybody else's time. So, I mean, if you can do that, like I shot the RAMGOG movies, I shot 2 of them, you know, because it was basically, I mean, it was simultaneous, but basically we got through 2 movies in 2 days, and I got everybody was in by 10 in the morning. Everybody was out by 4 or 5 o'clock. 2 days, we got 2 movies done because, you know, we prepared. I mean, there were a lot of other things about it that made it less challenging. We were in a studio, but you know, if you really prepare, it makes it so much easier. Everybody has a really good time.
It's like, will you be the AD for our movies and help us do the preparing part of it?
I'll tell you something. Listen.
So attention deficit disorder doesn't kill us in the process.
This is the story that I use. Is that we got this house. I was producing for this kid. I'm not gonna talk. The kid's an asshole. He was part of my other group that blew apart. Like everyone's an asshole. So anyway, we had this house for like 3 days to shoot. Okay. So we had it all planned out. It was going to be a tight 3 days. So on the way to, and this whole time I'm like, dude, storyboard. It's like, no, man, you know, it's going to tie me up. I got to feel, you know, whatever. So we're on the way to
save the time.
Yeah. So we're on the way to the location, and the girl calls out because she has freaking COVID, you know. We're in the car. We have the set for 3 days. So he ended up pissing her off because he's like, you know, show me the test. Like it got ugly, and she ended up dropping out. But either way, we lost an entire day. We lost a whole day. So now we're down to 2. And at that point, we had to even recast the role. Like I had to find somebody else to do it to get there. So I'm like, dude, we have to do this. We have to storyboard. So we went through the whole script by shot, you know, and we used we sat at my place. We used the camera. We walked around the room, and we figured out exactly what shot we wanted for each thing. And then we took all the shots and we divided it by how much time we had. And we realized that we had about 10 minutes per shot. Now, some of them were going to be inserts that were going to take 2 minutes. Some of them were going to be longer. It was going to take 12 minutes. But in the end, each setup should average about 10 minutes for those 2 days. And we finished exactly on time. Like it fit.
So is that you moving it along, or is there somebody else who also can kind of?
No, we didn't have, because the thing is, all this guy, it's like all the moving along. I was giving him a little nudge, but we were halfway through that first day, and I looked, and I'm like, we're ahead of schedule, you know. So I didn't have to really press him too much. But we had the shots, you know, we had the setup, so we had the shot composition. So, because when you're on set, you know, it can be intimidating if you don't have a plan. You're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Whereas this way, it's like we just looked at the picture. It's like, oh, here's the camera. There's the actor, and they just ran it and move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I can't
awesome.
speak highly enough about that kind of preparation. And I have to. Like I said, when you shoot 16, it's like $20 a minute.
So do you think that that's sort of part of your personality anyway, that comes naturally to you, or it's because the way you show your love for movie making or those participants is you just know, like, we just have to maybe we'll stay organized in that way.
Yeah, I'm not a particularly organized or meticulous person. I mean, my life is like, the only reason I get that way is because I learned from bitter experience.
Right.
My God. I mean, just I've made every awful, like I did this one movie where, again, it took me forever to realize that you shouldn't just arbitrarily like making shot, you know. So I've wasted so much time, so much money, so many people's patience figuring out the best way for me to do it. Yeah, because my natural inclination is definitely to be more spontaneous, but you lose so much. You know what I mean? Like, you look what you have if you look at what you have after you haven't prepared, and it's heartbreaking. You're like, Jesus, you know, this was terrible.
Right. Hindsight is always 2020.
There's no reason not to prepare.
That's the hardest thing, is juggling multiple things, you know.
And I'll tell you, it's like, I don't want to go off on this Kubrick thing for a minute, because I love Kubrick. My favorite movie is 2001: A Space Odyssey. But on the other hand, I don't think, he made great movies, but he was not a good filmmaker.
When he was like infamously did like 10,000 takes, torturing the actors because he could or something. That's
my feeling, my definition would be, if you're a good filmmaker, you have a plan, you know what you want, you go to set and you figure out how to get what you want from your actors or whoever, technical, whatever, in the least amount of time as possible, but get it right and then move on. But he, you read about him, and I've read a lot about him. The actors are like, he has no idea what he wants to do. Like he was a real, like he didn't like talking to girls. That would freak him out. So he couldn't, the only time he could talk to a woman was when he was yelling at Shelley Duvall. And he would just sit there and make them do it over and over again. And his thing was, find it, But honestly, I'll tell you, when you look at the performances in those movies, they're really not that good. Like if you have like Lee Ermey, Malcolm McDowell, George C. Scott, people who are going to knock it out of the park anyway, those performances are great. Peter Sellers, because he didn't have to do anything. But if you hand him like a mediocre talent, like freaking Ryan O'Neal was so wooden in Barry Lyndon, which is another movie I love, they literally had to have a narrator talking about what he was feeling. Like it's a picture of, fucking wall-eyed, block of wood. Ryan O'Neal's just standing there and there's this English voice like, oh, Barry was very, and the whole movie, it's just, he's following him around, telling everybody what he's feeling. Or like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, who are like, okay, like Tom Cruise does well with a strong director like Oliver Stone.
Right.
But it's brutal. It's brutal watching that, because he couldn't articulate. He didn't even know what he wanted. And it was a detriment to him, because had he been a little more, if he could just get over himself and commit to something, he probably could have made a lot more movies. There's no reason he should spend 10 years, he could have been a lot more prolific. But and again, the last thing I'll say about this is, the only reason I say this is because there are so many filmmakers out there, professional, like these guys who shot The Matrix, the DPs say the same thing, and on my level, who decide that that's the way to do it. I'm going to be Kubrick. I'm going to be control freak. I'm going to make them do it 1,000,000 times.
And then there's like, you wonder if they're leaning into their own like mythology about it too, or
it's a very thing. They're like, well, he's the greatest filmmaker who ever lived, and this is how he does it, so this is how I got to do it. I was on thing with this one kid,
And that's all the people who probably don't make movies saying that, just like the press or,
Well, again, you got to find out your own way to do it. But I've been there where the guy had to walk out of a room into the kitchen. It was like one setup, and make a cup of coffee. And this kid had him do it for like an hour.
Yeah.
An hour of just,
something you did?
Yeah, I was helping. I was like the producer. And he's just like, I'm like, come on, dude. And he's like, it was his first movie. He's like, no, man, it's not right. I'm like, dude, the guy just walks out of the room and pours a cup of fucking coffee. Where's the magic? It's like, you'll see it, when we launch the dailies. I'm like, no, dude. Like, there's a difference between take 40 and take 46. I'm like, there's not. It's like, ugh. You can't talk to somebody like that. They're out of their fucking mind,
Right. I'm familiar with that.
Yeah.
My crew, sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to jump back. You were talked about one of the really cool things, especially with the live action RAMGOG stuff, is like, I think just general production value you have for, whatever the budget. I mean, the costumes are really impressive. Like you say, there's, I guess RAMGOG is kind of like an ape-like character, or a monkey, a primate character.
Well, I mean, anybody who knows B sci-fi knows what the inspiration of RAMGOG is Roman from Robot Monster.
Okay.
The gorilla suit with the diver's helmet on.
Okay, because he has a mask on, I think, RAMGOG, right? Or...
Well, yeah, because Roman is completely ridiculous looking. So RAMGOG is like Roman's like, hot cousin.
Yeah.
I tried to streamline him a little bit.
Yeah.
But something about with the ape, there's so much there, because again, the apes are the first ones that we shot into space. Ape represents primal man with like 2001. So there's a very big, eventually again, you develop the mythology. So now the idea is that RAMGOG is part primate, part robot, part angel. And in there, I feel like you combine all these elements of, the nature, which is the beast, the technology, man's achieving, like man goes from beast to calculating intelligent being that can create machines.
So now it's like merging with technology, which is what we're seeing now with AI.
It is. 2001: A Space Odyssey is my favorite movie, so it's the same trajectory. You start out with the apes, then you go on to the astronauts, and then in the end you have that transcendent being. So like that whole that whole, like, you just take those three characters, you know, the ape, Bowman, and the Star Baby, and you cram them together, and you get RAMGOG.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, let's kind of expand on the exhibition of RAMGOG.
Great. Yep.
Because you said you're going to have those costumes. People can see some of these costumes on the mannequins, right?
Yep.
And this is at, what's it called? Industry Lab?
Yep.
Yeah.
In Cambridge here, and it's a really neat space. It's like a lot of independent artists, and there's some lawyers in there. It's just this great working space. And I shot a movie there years ago.
So if you get sued for your film, you can go right there.
Yeah, it's a one-stop for everything. You know, I can find a lawyer on the. You can find someone to sue you. To sue on the first floor. Go up the third floor. You can find your defense attorney. So you're all set. Nice. But it's this nice little lobby space, and I didn't want to make it a conventional screening where you got to be there at like 7 and sit in the chair and just watch the whole thing. I mean, I like Boston Open Screen. It's nice, but, you know, I never get to go to the little bar at the end because I work nights. And, you know, so there's a little bit of talking at the beginning, but so
there's not much social time.
Yeah. So this is more like an exhibition, like an art exhibit. So you're going to go in and it's going to be open, and we're going to have, you know, the costumes, the props. I'm going to have the scripts. There's going to be all kinds of, you know, again, the production, the means of production, and we're going to be there to talk. And again, if anybody's interested, I'm going to have the 16 millimeter camera and the 16 millimeter equipment, other stuff there. If anybody wants to talk about 16, if anybody wants to talk about how I'm doing the animation or doing any of the effects in the movies, and then we're going to have RAMGOG, the animated series. It's almost going to be like a, you know, moving picture or something. We're just going to have that projected on one of the walls, you know, and you'll be able to hear it. There'll be volume, but, you know, you'll be able to talk over it. So it'll just be part of the atmosphere. So hopefully it'll just be a nice social gathering. People can come in and go out. You don't have to stay the whole time like any kind of gallery event. But we are going to premiere the new short at, I think, about 8:30. That's when, like, the lights will dim and we'll have a formal sit-down screening, but the movie's only about 10 minutes long. And then after that, you know, we'll do a little Q&A, and, I mean, the whole thing is just going to be 2 hours, 7 to 9. It's free. It's free. I'm going to have some, it's going to, total loss for me. You know, we're going to get some wine and cheese. There's going to be swag. And hopefully, you know, it'll be a networking opportunity for people too. You know, I mean, everybody's always bringing their cards. I'm always bringing my cards. So I'm really hustling. Like I'm trying to get the word out as much as I can. Just be nice if a lot of people show up.
So passionoframgog.org.
That's the website. Yeah.
Is the website.
And the website has got a bunch of the episodes. There's also the trailers for the live action movies, and all the information about the exhibition is there too. And links to the other social media, like you know, I was off social media for the longest time, but when you do something like this, you have to. So, like, I'm on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook.
And it's Industry Lab in Cambridge, Mass, October 18th.
Yeah.
Right? You said 7 to
9. Yep.
9.
7 to 9.
And it's free.
Absolutely free. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a really neat space. There's not really a lot of parking there, but I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that they're going to have parking challenges in Cambridge. But it's nice. I'm also glad that we're able to do it on a Saturday night, because a lot of times when you have to rent a venue, you know, they have to do it on off hours. But at least now this is like a Saturday evening, and I wanted to do it in the fall, so we'll get dark early, so that we would get a good, you know, if we were trying to project the movie with the lights not dimmed for the event proper, when it was bright out, that would have been been an issue. We got big windows in that place. It's beautiful. I love I love Industry Lab and the great people there too.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, man. So you said is it like going to be mainly you, or are there any of the cast are going to be checking in, or you don't know?
Yeah. I believe the actress Emma Geller is going to be there. Prash Saka and his girlfriend Clover, who were, you know, I mean, I guess you could say they were PAing, but they were doing a lot more. We only have a few people, so everybody's doing everything. I don't think my cinematographer is going to show up. He's the one that I got into a bit of a conflict with. He's invited.
Do we want to smooth it over here? Do we or not?
Well, I mean,
it's a one-sided.
my position is that
He allegedly
well, I won't get into it, but
was a hole.
no, he wasn't. All right, look, he wasn't an a-hole, but let me just say that, whenever I encounter like a challenge, like one of the best things that ever happened to me once is somebody walked from my movie and I hadn't finished shooting with them, and it forced me to come up with an ending that I ended up liking better. He was just, I was on him, like I don't know, his exposures were fucked. Like I'm just like, dude, and I knew it when we were I had so many things to. I'm wearing a goddamn gorilla suit, and I'm trying to run set. I can't see a fucking thing, and I just know this guy's dogging it. I'm like, come on, man, because when you're shooting 16, you have no playback. You have to trust your guy, and I hadn't used him for years, and it could have been a slam dunk. It could have been easier. We were in a studio. We had complete control of the lights. We had all the time in the world. And, I kept questioning him, like, dude, like, we would set something, like, we're like, anyway. So when the footage came back and it was fucked, I was like, dude, come on, man, And I'm like, oh, I'll be friends with you, but I can't have you shoot for me anymore. So he didn't like that. But again, having the footage compromised like that forced me to come up with ways of compensating for that. And I think that's why the visuals in the second one are so... you saw it. It's bright. It's
vibrant. Yeah.
I had to do that to compensate for how underexposed a lot of the live action footage was. So it all worked out, but that doesn't mean you want to bring somebody on board who's going to fuck your thing up just to challenge you. It'd be nice to be able to trust your people.
If you can see ahead of that.
I would have done it myself, but.
So that answers the question too. So in the live act, so you not only in the animations you do the voice of RAMGOG, but do you also perform as RAMGOG in the costume?
I have to. Nobody else will do it. So what I do is it's very simple. I have my place and I get my iPhone. Well, usually I use my phone. Sometimes I use my Mac, and I just set it up with a tripod, and I just put on the costume, and I just do these different poses, and then I send that and I put that into Premiere Pro. But what's so neat is that I figured out
and then just overdub the voice.
Yeah. But in terms of even in terms of the movements, if you can take pictures of yourself in a certain way, you can actually paper doll yourself. Like I can take this arm and put it onto a different pose that I did to create a third pose, and so I'll take a bunch of pictures of myself in these. Some of them are very dynamic poses that I'll only use once. Others are sort of neutral that I know that I can sort of mine and Frankenstein this pose into another pose to serve another purpose.
Yeah. I think that's how most of our experimental eel stuff was made, is unintentional, weird activity we did that then is repurposed by movie magic in post-production.
So many things happen that way. There's so many like little serendipitous accidents that happen all the time.
Yeah.
You just got to be open to it. That's why you can't be too much of a control freak either.
Sure,
Like you can prep like a fanatic,
but then
you're
able
just
to roll with it.
Because that's you're building the foundation, and then you can just run around on it and see what happens.
Cool. So we talked about those vibrant visuals, and as a fan of RAMGOG, of course, I must ask you about music in cinema in general, and then of course, as applies to RAMGOG, I'm hearing a little bit of like who's it? The Duffer Brothers, a little bit Stranger Things theme in there.
Well, there's a really great, I think it's called Soundstripe Public. It's you pay for the subscription, but it's license-free music. So it's a whole catalog. So when I did, in my other movies, I always did a lot of classical music because that was basically some of the only license-free music I could get a hold of. But now they're doing so much more. So I knew that when I made the black and white 50s retro kind of analog-looking movie, I wanted to have an electronic score. Like I wanted the conflict between like you're looking at something.
That's right. That's right.
It looks like the 50s, and you're listening to like Dust Brothers and fucking.
That's right. There was this uncomfortable, weird feeling that I didn't know what that was. I think from that.
Yeah, it's like you're watching.
It's
like
incongruent.
You're watching Ed Wood and you're listening to Daft Punk. It's like what? So, and that's another thing I wanted to do to differentiate it from this is not foreboding, morose kind of like this is like dance music, I guess. So anyway, there was a guy. There's Cody Martin. I get a lot of stuff from him. These are all on Soundstripe. There's another guy, Wicked Cinema. and there's a few others that I only got
This
one.
is
or two
all
things.
like license free.
You pay for the prescription. God damn it. You pay for the subscription, and then you can use it. Like I put all those things on YouTube, and I never get flagged for any copyright issues because you own. So theoretically, I could sell those things. Like I have the license for all that music.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to keep the music very electronic music. And
but it works. It works.
Put it right there with that old ass 16 millimeter.
Yeah.
1950s aesthetic.
So something that's interesting here is talking about we're in the indie world, the art. What is an art film? It's an art movie versus, of course, I think everybody grew up with some exposure, to commercial film because it's easily accessible. And how do we, I think, continue to push on owning the art? Yes, it's an art film, but we kind of, do we want to go commercial? Do we not? And how do those two worlds, can they work together?
Well, I don't, for mainstream like commercial cinema, like I don't really think. I think you and I had this conversation before. It's all fast food. You'll like on the low end, you'll get McDonald's. On the high end, even the most prestige pictures, like the frickin', even Paul Thomas Anderson, Wes Anderson, they're still fast food. It's like it's the difference between like it's like the Red Lobster.
There's like a formula,
cinema. Yeah,
so we know what we're purchasing when we purchase it.
It's one of these things like it's sort of it's like if a studio looks at something. And maybe someone like Paul Thomas Anderson or somebody like maybe even Tarantino, who's a brand in and of themselves, they get a pass because people are going to go see it, whatever it is, because of their name.
That's why I heard like Tarantino is kind of the last of. Well, they always say that there's no more movie stars anymore, except maybe Tom Cruise, I guess, can open a movie. But unless I think Tarantino too, like. No matter what it is, people seem to like understand his brand and they'll want to just go. But everybody else, if it's not an IP, like I love Marvel stuff, but it's like even that I kind of checked out a little bit because it so has that formula. Yeah. It looks all homogenous, People
are really cracking on Marvel now, and I understand why. But you gotta, what they did for those 10 years was incredible. Like I don't think you'll ever see anything like that again. All they were doing really was adapting the philosophy they applied to the comic books, but that was something that,
right, like a shared universe.
Yeah.
Now people know multiverse.
I'm telling you, like when Batman Forever came out in '95, there's this scene where, Val Kilmer was Batman. He's talking to Robin, and Robin wants to chase the carnival, the circus across the country so he can kill Two-Face. So he just goes, well, the circus is probably halfway to Metropolis by now. And the minute he said that, everybody lost their shit. They're like, oh my God. It was that crazy that he would even say that word, so that when people actually did see a shared universe, it really blew their tits off. Yeah, but for 10 years, those movies were almost like an addiction, like Melrose Place or something. You had to see
You had to go to see it, and then it led up to Endgame.
Nothing lasts forever, and as bad as it's gotten.
The honeymoon period.
Honeymoon period was a decade. It was a decade. It was a decade of, so, you got to give them props. No matter how far they've fallen, nothing lasts forever. You couldn't expect that to go, and it went a really long time. And for comic book movies, it was a great run. So they'll always have my respect for that decade of just boom, 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 boom. And some of them were really good. Like, I know people may think it's the dumb one, but Ragnarok, I love that movie so much. I think The Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton was actually a really good one, too. That was really underrated.
Edward Norton, I think, was very good, but then he's also a guy who sort of has a famously maybe perfectionist thing. Like, he couldn't work in the ensemble or... He's a real actor, too, like you say. Maybe he didn't want to be as part of the fast food as much.
Well, the other thing, too, about him, he's brilliant. And he has, like, I think even just from his extra, I think he's like worth like $100 million just from, like, business dealings and stuff. So I don't think he needed to
Yeah,
I don't think he's really.
need to
I don't
commit
think, I
to
don't
it.
think he's kicking himself now that he didn't get stuck doing 10 movies. But
That's right.
But he's another one of those guys. Like you look at his filmography, and just start to finish, it's all been solid stuff. Like I think the only thing that he got they shoehorned into the Italian Job, and he got so pissed about that. Right? That was a whole story. But other than that, like every single thing that guy has done has been quality. Like if you see him, you know, it's just good.
It's gonna be good.
I mean, everybody's got something. I think Leonardo DiCaprio's got like some troll movie or something, and they started. But even Edward Norton, I think his first movie was like Primal Fear, which, you know, that's not like a great film, but he was great in it. And it's certainly not like, you know, Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun or something. You know?
Right. Somewhere they have the old shame, usually earlier on. But
Yeah. You've heard of
my whole acting career is all old shame.
Have you heard of the movie Tiptoes with Gary Oldman?
That's right. When I was there, we were all trying to figure, is that a real movie?
Oh,
or is
dude,
that
it's for real. Oh my God. Yeah, no, I didn't actually watch it, but I've seen a whole documentary, a whole little thing on it. So yeah.
Did they try to bury that when it was originally out, or? It's like the Bernstein, is it Bernstein or Bernstein? Like the Mandela effect. Like, did he really make a movie called Tiptoes? Or is that just...
And it's hilarious. There's this really funny YouTuber. Her name is Jamie French. And she does this hilarious episode. It's like maybe 40 minutes long, you know, where she talks about tippy toes. And it's hilarious. Like it's got this crazy cast. Like Peter Dinklage is in it. There's a lot of like little people, but like Patricia Arquette and McConaughey and Kate Beckinsale's running around with this weird like hat that she like insisted on wearing. And it's so fucking weird. And that's the other one, McConaughey. He got into a weird. They had called the McConaissance, you know, when he got out and he was doing True Detective and Interstellar. But yeah, that was a period.
That just makes me think about maybe like weird demands that some actors will make just to they have to get accommodated. Like I'm trying to remember what it was, but I don't know if you ever saw the YouTube channel Red Letter Media. They're pretty
I've
funny.
probably watched some of those.
But they always review. They do their show Best of the Worst, which they review like all these B movies or low. And of course, the best thing is not when somebody now when they're sort of self-aware and they're kind of trying to make a bad movie, like a silly movie, but it's the earnestness of when somebody is sincerely trying to make a good movie.
That's what makes a great. That's what makes a cult movie. That's what makes a great bad movie. It's the sincerity, absolutely.
But I was trying to remember. I was trying to sound informed, and I couldn't remember the. Who's the guy who was the? Do you remember in the Naked Gun movies with Leslie Nielsen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Who's the guy who was like his number 2?
Oh, George Kennedy.
Yeah, George Kennedy. So there was like a Bigfoot movie where George Kennedy was like going to be the guy, guiding this group of campers through, and they're trying to track down this Sasquatch or whatever, and he's like, "I'll lead you," and he's wearing this he has like, kind of age appropriate, maybe like flannel button down shirt on, whatever, and then he has this like kind of bright yellow bucket hat on, and he goes like, "I'll lead you," and then he's like sort of grabbing onto the edge of the hat and go, "And I'll wear this yellow hat to attract the creature," or whatever. And then the Red Letter Media guys will comment on it and be like, he probably just wanted to wear that hat, and they had to write it into the script.
I don't know why actors are like that, but there's this scene in Barfly because Mickey
need
Rourke
to have
is
some
notorious.
autonomy.
There's a scene in Barfly where Mickey Rourke, he just puts on these sunglasses and they're like pineapples with like little eye holes, and he got into this fight with the director because he wanted to wear those things for the whole fucking movie.
I think Bill Murray had a scene in the last Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
Oh, did he?
He shows
I didn't realize
up.
he was in that.
Yeah,
No.
he shows up, but then he's wearing sunglasses and nobody else is, and it was probably one of those things. I'll show up, but I must have sunglasses on.
It's just they don't. A lot of times they won't have respect for the piece because they're just drawing attention to themselves.
Yeah,
you know?
right.
It's just I don't know. I that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I never had to work or never really became a professional, because I would not be able to deal with something like that. I would lose my mind.
Right. Well, that's a good way to tie in talking about sort of the struggles as independent creators. And the more esoteric question here is, how do we continue to find purpose in our work, if there is any purpose, and how do we keep it going, James?
Well, you know what? What do you think? What do you think about that? Well, where do you find purpose in the work?
Anytime I'm feeling fatigue or pain, physically or mentally, the pain of the impending film shoot, and I go, why is this? Is it the community? Is it experiences like this, or say the Boston Open Screen? We can talk about that. I guess it's the community, and certainly we can also talk about. I know your movies have had a couple of reviews that you pointed out to me, and sort of getting the feedback on your work is exciting.
Yeah.
But it's a way to communicate, put your ideas out, and the broader things is, I mean, there's definitely those, like you say, the contingent of artistic people. I think my experience and my friends and work, I mean, a component of ADD is you get into that hyper focus, and it's amazing to kind of build out your own world and see that on the screen. But then just having trouble navigating the business part of it and negotiating that part, because a lot of people, if you're only motivated by money and the bottom line and stuff, a lot of times it doesn't, you have to produce consistently a product for people, and that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
So, exchanging ideas, meeting new people. I just like documenting myself and my friends.
Sure.
We get our share of screen time. That's exciting. You have sort of a weird dreamlike experience or something that like Lynch would talk about too, because like myself and some of my friends, it's like maybe we do visual art or we do writing, poetry, we express it different ways. Sometimes the moving image, the cinema, it's the only way to show like a dreamlike experience.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the moving, not necessarily that it always has to look like the moving painting thing. It could be whatever. But that's kind of exciting. That's kind of cool. And I think it was the community. I think, there's sort of the mystique of cameras, and like you say, and you sort of, I was introduced into, like you talk about, public access television.
Yep.
But it's sort of trying to, I think the typical sort of type A thing, or the capitalist society thing is like, well, why are you doing this? Or if you're not making a lot of money doing this, why do this? So it's hard to convey that to people who don't really get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yet you're still promoting your work. We can also talk about, you talked about the swag. We'll talk about that.
Well, the other thing too is that, just about anything, again, it's got a, cash equivalent, like, what are you making off of this? Mm-hmm. And it never occurred to me really that one of the things, I mean, I've always realized this, but I didn't realize just what a gift it was, is that the freedom that we have, because, a lot of the conventions of cinema and a lot of the things that we love so much about even the movies that we love have been forced upon the filmmakers and the creators to fit, it can only be so long, or they can't, people, a lot of filmmakers would not put credits at the beginning of their movies, but they have to because there's a union. I'll see people on our level and they're front loading their short movie with all these credits, and it's like, dude, you don't, if you don't have to do that. Like, nobody wants to do that. Like, you're doing all these things that these filmmakers would rather not do. They have to do. So we have the freedom to just do whatever we want. No one's telling us what to do. We're self-financed. So, the more experimental stuff, the weirder stuff, like, my feeling is that if you look at something and you're like, there's no way anybody would ever make this, that's the free, like, you have to do that because that's the only way it's going to get done. So if somebody's like, why do you do it? It's like, because nobody else will.
Well,
like, if I don't do it, there's not going to be anything like this.
You're representing that in the space, like, that it has a place.
Like, this would not, nobody, I'm doing it because nobody else ever would. Nobody in their right mind would do this. And even the guy,
That should be the quote on the poster.
No, my quote on the poster, because there was a review I sent you, and this guy paid me a backhanded compliment. He's like, Ristas is a very talented filmmaker. I don't know why he keeps making these movies about these space robots. Like, he basically said I was wasting my time. So that I should have put that on the poster, But the other thing that I did on my posters was that, like, for the RAMGOG, the first poster, we talked about this before. They were like, everybody puts all those laurels on their posters,
and they're
right?
front loading with that.
So
that's a whole other thing I learned about relatively recently is the film festival
factories,
the culture of sort of the lower budget movies that are. I mean, now there's so many festivals. There's the Film Freeway where anyone can submit, and it's like anything. They're sort of front loading with the laurels. Yeah,
I mean, it's. I mean, you don't want to accuse anybody of anything, and everybody's. I don't want to get into it, but basically, what I was doing is when I was getting rejections, and I got a lot of them, I was making laurels out of that. And if you look close, like one of them is like, "Not today." No, one of them just says, "Your film sucks," and they're attributed to the. I'm paraphrasing the sentiment of the actual festivals that I submitted to. But if you look close, like all the laurels are like, "Your movie sucks. This is a piece of shit." But casual glance, they see the laurel, so. If they assume that means that,
But what about that Manchester, UK?
I was blown away by that. I'd never really been nominated for anything. I didn't win.
That was the Delta Award?
Delta, yeah. I mean, that was for me, in the grand scheme, that's not going to get you a job. But from going from none of my stuff, like a lot of the stuff that I'd done previous, I would get nothing. I would 0 for 0. Like nobody wanted to see anything I was doing. So just to get into a few festivals, let alone just be nominated for an award that actually, had some sort of reputation, that was amazing. So I put that on there only because I think that award exists, beyond just that festival. Like I think that's a thing.
Well, in Manchester, UK. So that was a Festival of Fantastic Films. So let me ask, do you have kind of a strategy for the submissions to film festivals, or is it just sort of?
Well, you got to. I have to be very specific with the genre stuff. Like, I don't think any of my stuff is ever going to just. I can submit it to a general short film program.
Have you tried the Boston Underground Film Festival? Because that seems kind of like it might fit in. A lot of their stuff is kind of dark.
Yeah, I couldn't get into the Boston Sci-Fi Film Festival. I sent RAMGOG there, and they didn't want it. So
I think Bob White's been in there a couple of times.
Well, I just submitted. I sent them the new one, which might be easier to program, which is because it's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah. Timing seems really important.
That's easier to program. So the first one was 20 minutes long. I mean, that's really long. For an online festival, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to have people sitting in that's why I was so excited that RAMGOG, the first one, did as well as it did, even though the acceptance rate was like less than 50%. But you vet those festivals. You make sure those are ones where people are sitting in chairs and they're watching the fucking thing.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to sit and watch something for 20 minutes as part of a program, because you got to not only do you have to beat out the other 20-minute,
you have to be twice fit into the program.
You got to beat out the other 10-minute movies, but you have to beat out twice as many 10-minute movies because you're taking out basically 2 slots. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. But I like that thing. Like, Tarantino's always talking about David Lynch also talked about how dare you say you've watched a film if it's on
your fucking phone?
It's on a fucking telephone.
And then he goes in, and there's so much trouble in this world. Oh my God, he turns into this big global problem. On your fucking phone?
So the traditional experience can be good. All the things I like about the movie-going experience are also, depending on how I feel, also the things I don't like about the experience. Like, there's other people here, and,
One of the best... It doesn't happen a lot, but one of the best, packed movie theater experiences I ever had was when I saw the first Blade movie back in the late 90s. I saw the
trailer. Really influenced a lot of the modern comic book movies.
And I always had the same buddy, and I drag him to stuff, and he would be like same thing with I took him to Starship Troopers. He's like, this is gonna suck, and then he came out with our favorite movie. So I'm like, dude, we got to go see Blade. He's like, are you kidding me? What the fuck? I'm like, dude, come on. So we saw a midnight screening of Blade. And we go in there, and the audience was split down the middle. Like, me and my buddy were the only, like, squares in there. But, like, half the audience were these goth kids who were there for the vampire. And the rest of them were all these, like, urban hip-hop, like, dudes who came there for Wesley Snipes. And everybody was cheering at the same time. So it was like, you know, it was all, like, the freaking rappers and gangster dudes and all of the freaking goth kids all cheering Blade. And my buddy and I are just sitting there like, this is the greatest thing that ever happened in our lives. So sometimes, you know, the group experience in the theater can be great. But.
And that was before, I think a few years before The Matrix, right?
I mean, that was really, I think the first Blade was something like 97, 98, and I think The Matrix was 99.
Yeah, because I saw like a video essay or something. They were talking about sort of the aesthetics, like the costuming of The Matrix. Everybody with the leather trench coats and glasses. That was almost ripping off the Blade look too. So and then of course we saw that after The Matrix, then we had to dress the X-Men the same way in the movies, and that really prevailed for a while.
Well, it was tough. I mean, they did that with the first Batman movie too. It's like, how are you going to sell? I mean, now finally people are freaking out because they're doing the comic accurate outfits, but they've only done that after people, you know, are finally taking these movies seriously. But I mean, they had to do everything they can to make it not look ridiculous, because they were still trying to pitch these movies as not ridiculous. I mean, I know that people jump up and down on Batman '89, you know, purists like Kevin Smith, because of all the, you know, creative license they took. But, you know, without that movie, you know, when Tim Burton was so young and it was so bold, like it was such a weird fucking take. That was really, that was another just total remarkable thing that they were able to pull off, because anybody could have looked at it and been like, what the hell is this? Like, I mean, you talk about fan backlash. Every time they do a weird casting, like the backlash for Heath Ledger when they cast him as Joker, people were flipping out, because at that point he was still like a teen idol, like 10 Things I Hate About You. And when people found out that Michael Keaton was going to be Batman, because he was known as like Mr. Mom and Beetlejuice, and they were so terrified that it was going to be like the Adam West series, that they lost it. And what I think is so brilliant about Tim Burton and his eye is that he had just made Beetlejuice, right? And they told him are we running out over there?
No, we got
it. If they told him if Beetlejuice was a hit, then they would make Batman. So he's on set, right? And he's thinking to himself, I'm going to make Batman. I got to cast Bruce Wayne. And he looks and he sees Alec Baldwin, who basically is Bruce Wayne. And then he looks over and he sees Michael Keaton, who's dressed like a fucking ghoul. And he's like, that's my Bruce Wayne. It's like that dude, Alec Baldwin, when he was young, he is Bruce Wayne. That's him. And Burton just like saw right past him.
Well, because Keaton had like the crazy eyes that he could. That's the only way he'd believe. That he would. This is the guy who would actually dress up as a bat.
Yeah. Why would Alec Baldwin? Why would he want to dress up like a bat? He could just live his life and be awesome. You know?
Incredibly rich and
like, what do I got to do?
Handsome. No, definitely. I mean, all of that popular culture stuff, the superhero stuff. I mean, Kevin Smith also said that the anticipation for that movie was, they said people were just going to see other movies to watch the trailer for that movie, and that they could have written, it was an amazing trailer, but also they could have just written Batman on a chalkboard and people would have cheered.
Well, that's another thing people don't understand, is that we have so much.
You had to wait so long for these things to come out.
There's just so much out there. Like now, the media and the news and everything, there's so much that back then, the entire summer could be about just one thing.
Yeah,
there were only
Batmania.
There was like 10 channels on TV. There was cable. But there was nothing. So you were just being fed Batman all the time, the entire summer, and that's all people could talk about. I think the closest thing we ever came to that was maybe when they did Phantom Menace in '99, but that tapered off quick after people actually saw the movie. But with Batman, they're like, this movie's awesome. It really had the staying power.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about your favorite movies. Do some more, or sort of the state. I mean, that sort of touches on, you say, like the current culture, the state of film in the U.S. Because now it's the American thing, right? We always have to keep expanding more. Bigger is better, and we have so much media and so many choices.
Well, it's there's always a place for the alternative stuff, and I really think that when people go to the mainstream cinema and they start wringing their hands, again, I'm like, dude, it's fast food. Like, I don't care if it's dressed up like McDonald's or, it's being presented to you on a platter, at Panera or something. It's dressed, it's all, if a studio looks at it and says, this is going to be viable enough that enough people in the country are going to want to see this, that it's going to make
the
its money back.
4-quadrant thing or whatever.
As cynical as it sounds, that automatically says to me that enough compromises have been made to appeal to a mass audience that this is just not going to be anything particularly interesting. So the good stuff is coming out of, it's always coming out of Europe, but like when VHS came out, when all the grindhouse theaters and drive-ins died out, all of that went direct to video, and that's what became the underground scene. And now it's streaming. Like all of the best stuff is on streaming. And case in point is Twin Peaks: The Return. I mean, that was just like an 18-hour feature thing that could never have existed in any other way. And I know Netflix is making some crazy stuff, but they made this movie called, I think it was Honora, with Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard or whatever, which was incredible because they have their built-in audience. The thing's already paid for. So I think that stuff, and the other thing too is like there's so many streaming platforms. Like I had a bunch of my stuff on a streaming platform that a buddy of mine put on, that it was his platform, So I think that finding the good stuff and exhibiting your stuff, it's all streaming. So the outlet is still there. The chance to, that's where you can go to see the best stuff and to put your stuff.
Sure. Well, we got to talk about the RAMGOG swag and that effort, and then that can sort of dovetail into anything we more want to talk about with the Boston Open Screen.
Sure.
And just because, like you say, going to sort of maybe these local screenings, smaller screenings, and sort of how can you amplify that and get the most out of your movie being a part of that. And Bob White was really good at having buttons and stickers and all kinds of stuff. And you have sort of that RAMGOG logo, that image on a lot of different stuff. Yeah.
So this person reached out and said that they wanted to do a small physical media distribution of RAMGOG. They were going to press DVDs, and they didn't want any money. They're just, it seemed legit. They didn't ask me for anything. They didn't want the rights, nothing. They just wanted to. So I said, great, let's do it. And they told me what they were going to do. They do these packages where they pack it, they put merchandise. They make T-shirts and buttons and all that kinds of stuff, and they package it with a physical DVD as a thing. Well, this person turned out, again, I'm trying not to talk any shit. This person turned out to sort of like not, didn't work out, but it didn't cost me anything, And by the end, I got tired of dealing with it. I'm like, you know what? I sent you the files. If you want to do it, go ahead. But I'm tired of chasing you down over this. So anyway, but that put the idea in my head of like, oh, I could just do that myself. So the first was buttons, and then all these things you can find on Amazon: buttons, stickers, and then I found the snap bracelets, stress balls. And then, were you there when I was giving out the rubbers? Did you take one of those?
I think I saw those.
I didn't want to keep giving out the same stuff every time, so I'm like maybe novelty. So I found that you can actually do novelty condoms, and I got the jumping RAMGOG.
That's right.
On a prophylactic. And when I advertised them on Facebook, I had there's a character who's got these big talons. And I'm like, free RAMGOG Profos. And he's like this, and he's got the talons sticking right through the condom. It's like piercing it right through the middle.
That's on brand.
Yeah. So I was giving them out. And, of course, they were novelty items. I mean, everybody knows condoms are for squares anyway. Okay. So, yeah. So I'm so dirty. So they were novelty items. You're not supposed to use them, but, they're like fun things to have. I don't know if Bob used I don't know.
Well, wait a minute.
Oh, did you use it?
Shouldn't you explain that to people, that it's complete novelty?
Listen, if you're going to use
they may be desperate one night and, after the open screen.
I suppose it's better than nothing. But if somebody just randomly hands you a Profo with a stamp of a robot gorilla on it and an open screen and you use it, all right, to me, that's informed consent, whatever, people giving you rubbers. But remember, the people were getting freaked out. Like, I think I stuffed them in your hand and gave some to Bob, and some people took them, but definitely the women, they were like, So I ended up just taking them all, and I went down into the lobby of the Coolidge, and they wanted them. I'm like, hey, guys, want some novelty Profos? And they're like, ah. So it's almost like the art people in the Boston Open Screen were a lot more timid about the So I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't do that again. But I'm still doing the. It's good because I think you're working on it too. I think your logo now is DL's face.
That's right.
It's just nice to have It's just nice to have a symbol. You know, it's like
That's
the,
right.
like the bat symbol.
DL is going to be the reluctant face of
just
our
that
productions because he is. Particularly, it seems like at the open screen LA, we seem to be like backdooring our way into like there's more of like an alternative comedy kind of scene there, and they seem to have really taken to some of DL's monologues and some of our material with DL. So, and of course, DL has been he hasn't really made his own movies in recent years, but he made a bunch in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in his 60s now, but he was pretty much, a child actor with him and his brother.
Oh, really?
Not really professionally, but, they were, like yourself, they got into Super 8 movie making, and they were acting as children. Their father had brought, a Super 8, I think, camera home, and they have, like, all this old content, and then, I met him, like, in the early 2000s at New TV in Newton. He was looking for an editor, and we edited this movie, Urban Fairy, which was essentially like if David Lynch had made the movie E.T. That's what it turned out to be.
That sounds amazing.
And
I'd love to see that.
He showed it a couple of times at open screen, and he told me, I mean, he's totally unfazed. He's sort of likes to represent the voice of dissent in the audience at all times.
Yeah, I get that. I get. He's very into dissent. I think he's a bit of a contrarian.
Yes,
I definitely got that impression from him.
So, he's like, well, my therapist said, why am I? Or no, people say, he's like, I'm just standing up for myself, and then people say, why are you so antagonistic? And I thought, well, if you're doing that all the time, you might need to temper that. But yeah, I think. I had some of just like a basic text logo, but then I think, the symbolism, the iconography of DL's floating head. And of course, just since 2023, in the studio here at Cambridge Community Television, he sort of invented the need to now constantly wear the red and blue kind of 3D style glasses.
What is that all about?
Which was hilarious because I remember in the past he was saying like, how when actors like they get older and all of a sudden they're wearing like tinted colored glasses, and then he actually lived into actually doing that when he sort of came out of retirement from being in content. He's like, now I need to bring something to it, and now also every time he takes a photo with us too, we have to stop and he has to put the glasses on. But then I guess it sort of did work because I think you had mentioned, and people, what I learned too is we are sort of, just because we're relentlessly putting the stuff in front of people's faces, we are sort of getting recognized, but I think like you say, there's so much material that getting name recognition is harder. So you're sort of like that guy. Like I'll walk around the studio and it's like, oh, it's that guy from that thing. Who knows what that was, but he had the 3D glasses, so I think he was at least known as like 3D glasses man for a while.
Well, the expression on his face is also a good representation of the experimentally ill experience.
Persistent frown. So
it's not even a frown. It's just kind of like it's just that look. Like I don't even know how to describe
misanthropic.
It's just like ugh.
Yeah.
It's like I don't even have the energy to tell you to go fuck yourself. I'm just like, trying to do it with my eyes.
That was the experience in this very studio. I think is where we captured that image. So but that's gonna go on like a button. I'll probably do like 10 more of those. My experience is, for me at least, like when you get into ordering maybe more than that at a time, it becomes a little bit expensive to keep giving away, but I think it's also really fun to give things away like that. It makes people feel a part of the thing, and I do put these around, persistently, James has given us more
Yeah, I appreciate that.
product. We have to eventually. I'm sure there'll be a storage closet. Someone will open and be crushed by RAMGOG
I
condoms.
hope not. I hope that it doesn't have the same trajectory as all my distribution of VHS cassettes, where they're all by the end of my life, they're all going to wind up at my doorstep.
Is that like there are plenty of Wayne Stock tickets available?
Yeah.
Actually, all of the Wayne Stock tickets are available from Wayne's World 2.
Well, it's just. I mean, it's just about, for me anyway. It's just about burning that image in the
I think
the leaping
does work.
RAMGOG. Just because again, a few times I've handed them out and people have recognized it. Either they say I've seen this, or one person here they actually referred to it by name. So
Yeah.
that was a lot of fun. That was fun for me to hear.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Well, that's what Lawrence Holly says with our stuff is like, DL is, Lawrence will refer to it as our empire of experimental ale, and then DL will refer to it as that thing. Are you still showing that thing? That's out in Hollywood somewhere, or what? Because we were showing it on the West Hollywood Public Access channel, and then Lawrence said, and despite that, he's the face of it.
I mean, he does seem like he's such a curmudgeon. Like, has he ever said something nice like that was funny, or I think what we're doing is good, or even anything remotely like positive or encouraging?
Yeah, I like in the intro for the 9th movie, I was like, can you believe we made 9 of these? Like, it's creativity. If not anything, it's creativity.
It's like, even if he says something nice, it's got to be conditional. It's like, I think it's good if you care about that sort of thing.
Right. It's like, he has no filter, so he can't.
That may actually be a good segment.
That's right.
Is to just sit there with him and just try to get him to say something nice or happy without having to having a little chaser after.
The way you can tell that he's like trying to do that is he overshoots it, so everything is like. When he'll comment, like everything will be great or amazing, and you can tell he's like overselling it because he doesn't know. There's like no in between.
So he's not being sincere. Then he's just ratcheting it up. Well, I mean, let me ask you this question. Now that this whole thing is shifted towards DL, where I'm sure his ears are burning. In the time that you've known him, not on camera,
because then he'll say, is it on? Because we had him on, maybe 50 podcast episodes over the years, and he'll say, "Is it on some website?" Like, yes, it is.
Well, are there real moments of levity with him at some point where he's actually, just like chill and happy and having a good time? Or I
think so. I mean, he and I made a ritual out of going to he used to go to the open screen way back in the day, where he said like there were open screen T-shirts and all this stuff, and I mean he's doing it much longer. But yeah, we used to go. I mean, his hangout is the T. Anthony's Pizzeria in Alston. Okay. Right. So we would, before I was sort of forcing myself to go to Granny O'Malley's, the bar down the street from the Coolidge, which is the thing that happens at Boston Open Screen, the bar. He and I used to go to the T. Anthony's, and talk about the movies and whatever. So. And then sometimes he would show me different movies he would like, and there is sometimes, a moment of levity. But currently,
every once in a while,
we're like reluctant colleagues where we have to make appearances together, contractually obligated to make appearances, but we're not. But I have to sort of temper communication sometimes because I feel like
don't say anything that we got to assume that he's watching, so don't say anything.
It's fine. We are still creating stuff, and I'm sure he and I will create stuff again and communicate again in a productive manner. I mean, I'm a huge fan of DL, and his movies were definitely unique. I mean, myself and Lawrence Holly, we saw DL, I think, in the 90s. I mean, we saw him doing, using the resources of public access to make a movie with a story, a narrative, and get actors. And at the time, most people using public access TV facilities, were doing just like a talk show, like the two chairs in the tree kind of thing. But but yeah, it's been pretty cool. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, DL is somebody who's very much like in the moment, and sometimes me too. Like sometimes I think it's good to kind of look back and, you know, honor the stuff that we made. And yeah, he always brings something of his own to the table, makes it his own,
Sure.
you know, which I always appreciate, and having a unique perspective. And yeah, Urban Fairy, and then when he was like 13, 14, he made this movie called Ersatz that was like a Super 8, sort of also like a nightmarish movie about this woman who carries around her dead father's head.
Nice.
And wants to be like a writer, and that's a very kind of dreamlike and also nightmarish movie.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. Is like we were talking about art a little bit earlier, and I do think that term gets tossed around a lot. You know, sort of a blanket term. But as of late, I've been feeling like if something's going to be considered like art, I think there should be something, you know, like redeeming or transcendent or beautiful about it, and not just subjectively beautiful, you know, like, you know, I mean, again, you know, because it just made me think of it when you're talking about, you know, like the despair and the nightmares. I mean, those can, I mean, those can also have beautiful moments. Like even when David Lynch gets really down into the,
Right.
you know, there's always the angel.
I think DL was trying to have, he was sort of trying to have a message, I guess, not that it was always, so like a message, and I mean, his moral of the story was usually how, as you could tell from his monologues lately, is sort of more misanthropic about, or sort of like people's petty conflicts, or he was really despised his cellular telephones lately, so that's one of his things. So yeah, it wasn't always uplifting, but I think Urban Fairy ends on like a positive note. Well, I don't want to speak for his stuff, but yeah, and also DL is sort of has the undiscovered genius kind of thing where, again, it's like he has a lot of movies, but not all of them are publicly available. He's primarily does visual art, you know, drawings and paintings and things, and has a web presence to some extent. But yeah, that's sort of like the commercial versus non-commercial.
Yeah.
That's why Boston Open Screen is really cool. We could talk about that too, because like I think we had a venue to show like Urban Fairy, which is like a 20-year-old movie that I was like, oh, what's the point? It wasn't quote unquote discovered, but then it's like 20 years later, it's still playing. It's playing to probably like audience of, it seemed to be a few months ago, a lot of college kids who probably weren't even like around when we worked on it, and then it got a ton of laughs and stuff.
Yeah, I think I was there for that. Was that the one with all that the guy in the chair was spinning going down the street?
That was that's I guess he calls that Mr. Richards' neighborhood, and then it's revealed to be Grill Interrupted.
That one.
Yeah. So yeah, that one also got a lot of laughs, and then I was sort of celebrating with him. He's like, "It's just laughs. It's just," but no, man, totally unique character, and those are the kinds of things that you should go to a show like a Boston Open Screen for, because like you just never know what you're gonna want to see. You're gonna see even the guys running it don't know what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So
that's the terror of it.
Yeah. The beautiful thing and the horrifying thing of Open Screen.
Yeah. So when's that going to start again? It's a week or so.
That's October 14th.
Okay.
So why don't we start heading toward wrapping with talking about. We'll talk more about the exhibition of RAMGOG too. When is that going to be again? October
18th.
18th.
Yeah.
So you can check out Open Screen. I don't know if you're going to do that too.
Yeah, no,
but
I'm going to come to Open Screen. He said that's 14th, and that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Are you sure it's 14th? Because I think Saturday's the 18th. So my thing's the 18th, and that's on a Tuesday, and that probably works out.
Something like that. I think it's whatever the second Tuesday of October is. I hope that's correct
But
because
it's 14, 15, 16, 17. No, that'd be right. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, that works.
yeah.
For the 14th.
Yeah, no. So I think what I learned too is I think there is, I guess, a certain Boston movie nerd, like, just sort of goes to like all of this stuff, because what happened was Phil Healy, who's well, he's not always there at the Boston Open Screen, but he's sort of the most spirited in terms of like, you know, he's been involved in the Boston film scene for a while, and he's talking to a lot of different people. And he was talking to me, and like we got to do, because him and Adam from Open Screen also are like technical directors at Boston Underground Film Festival. So we got to open the block of horror movies called the Dunwich Horrors with a sort of a PSA in our style.
Yeah, I saw that. It's on your page.
Yeah, so it was like me and DL's floating heads coming in, and it's like turn your phones off before the movie and stuff. And that was only like 1 minute, or I think this year we got it down even more. But yeah, like just from doing the open screen, like I was recognized like a handful of times, and then like by the kid who was doing the tickets at the Brattle,
Sure.
And then he was like, "Oh, you showing something in the?" I was like, "Well, no, you know, our film didn't really get in." I said, "But we showed a bumper." I think we had put in, like, we tried to get the first Experimental Eel movie
I mean,
in.
that's the thing. Are you guys going to venture into a narrative at some point? Is that a goal?
Yeah,
or?
I think that's a goal. I think in the next few weeks we're gonna try to do more like short little sketches that we're gonna kind of script out more. So I'd like to do that like in the next month or so. By the end of the year, we want to have we did 10 of those kind of compilation.
Yep.
So we did 10-minute things that we kind of were debuting at the Boston Open Screen. So, and it was sort of kind of similar to what Lawrence was doing in like early 2000s. He had a public access show called Random Acts. And then around that time I was doing this other show called Insubordinate, which was sort of like a thing with all my high school, you know, friends. And it was similar. It was more like, I think Lawrence would kind of describe it as like a sort of a video diary that had like serial skits in between. And I think he too was sort of like inspired by, you know, stuff like MTV's Liquid Television and stuff. Or then people like our friend Rod Weber, who does movies and documentaries and stuff, comparing it to like the USA Night Flight from the 90s. It's sort of like a magazine style. So so that was cool, because I remember Phil Healy from Open Screen saying like, show us what you can do in 10 minutes. And then we were like, well, that sounds like a fighting words. Like we can show you like multiple things, you know, in that 10 minutes. So that's been kind of fun to do like some of the surreal things on the green screen.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible the resources that people have.
You know,
this
costs like
them.
nothing to do. So I think doing some narrative. I mean, I think, and then of course our buddy John McGinnis, who does the Screaming Ostrich International Film Festival, and he helped us shoot a lot of stuff, and we shot it here. Who I kind of met him because he knew our late filmmaker friend Mick Cusimano that we talk about a lot. So although I never knew him like together, those guys together again, like McGinnis is sort of like, you know how in the Marvel movies they'll be like, oh yeah, this character off screen was also part of this. You just didn't see it. You know, so McGinnis is sort of a legacy guy in that way. But yeah, one could probably get some stuff into the Screaming Ostrich, or I mean I just try to like meet people and see, you know, if things can.
Well, I think
work.
I think one of the nights of Screaming Ostrich is actually going to coincide with my event. So
yeah,
I'm hoping there won't be too much. But you know, it's.
But yeah, I think I know.
We got so many things going on. There's going to be.
We did the. We showed Experimental Eel, and I think RAMGOG was also part of
Fan Expo?
at the Fan Expo Comic-Con. at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center. We did that a few months ago, and then like I think John McGinnis maybe was the first time he saw like an open screen, and he was like, the thing about that is most of those movies, you know, like, well, we reject films at the Screaming Ostrich because, you know, if it didn't have like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then even my friend Kizzy was there, who he went to Emerson and studied film and stuff, and she was also an actress in our friend John Hartman's movies. Real Groovy Films is his thing, so I acted in some of his stuff too. But yeah, she was made a good point when she's like, well, like, where else are they going to show those kinds of movies if not, you know, at the open screen? Yeah. Which is true. But I think, yeah, like to our taste, maybe we kind of thought we had the right timing, or we thought we had enough of a narrative thing, or we thought we had. But yeah, it's trying to fit into a festival programming is tough. It's pretty competitive. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, and then you were here too when I got to show number 6 and number 9 at the Maya Waves, the multimedia show that those kids do, and they had it on all the CRT TVs and stuff.
You got some good, good shots.
You know, so any kind of like alternative or like DIY shows, I think we could fit into too. So
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, that's because the thing is, there's so many festivals now, and so many movies that I think, you know, a lot of times people would go to festivals and they would see them as an opportunity to, you know, make business connections and such. But I think a lot of the people that, you know, I don't think people are making deals at regular film festivals anymore. I mean, Cannes and those places, they're not film festivals; they're film markets. You know, you go there to buy movies.
Yeah, like they're already.
Yeah, I mean, those are basically movies for sale. I mean, they call it a festival, but it's almost like screening them for buyers. But I don't know if so. It's festival play is good and it's exposure, but I don't think anybody's. I don't think that they're what they used to be, even before my time. Mm-hmm. You know, when there were a lot fewer festivals and there were
it wasn't as competitive. I mean,
there were a lot fewer movies
at all.
I mean,
Kevin Smith always talks about like the legend of like in the '90s where you come from nowhere and make a real low budget movie and then it's sort of plucked from obscurity. Like he talks about showing it like locally. I think at the Angelica like cinema, and then it was just I think Bob Hawke, just, you know, the tastemaker, just the legend of, you know, it's just you and your crew, and then the tastemaker like walks in and says, "Hey, have you ever thought of Sundance?" You know, and then that's, you know, then you make millions of dollars or something, and now there's like so much competition in the first place.
Yeah, again, it's I don't know. I mean, I do think it's better now. Like, it's definitely harder to you know, get your stuff out, get your stuff in front of people now because there's so much stuff. But it's definitely preferable to when it was, you know, so prohibitively expensive. You just couldn't get your hands on any of the equipment to make anything look even decent. Mm-hmm. To now, it's the opposite. But I would much rather have a log jam of stuff out there that's backing you up than to not be able to produce anything at all. Because it's not like that anymore. I mean, there's so many times where people wanted to do something like this, and they were never going to be able to make a movie just because they could not get their hands on the resources. And now anybody can do it. I know, and people can say that in like, oh my God, anybody can do this. And it does result in a lot of content that maybe isn't so good.
That was my own audience experience. I think I was talking about that with Lawrence Holly, the co-producer of the Experimental Eel movies, was when we did another, because we had a 30-minute piece on CCTV and some of the other, I think that was the one that played in West Hollywood, and then we just put together like a second compilation of that, which is about 30 minutes from these pieces that were sort of paced to be the 10 minutes, and then I said, like, how come at like minute 11 it feels like my head is like being held underwater, or like why, or like I'm... like you're trapped, like you're in like a nightmare where you're having like sleep paralysis and you can't. Yeah. Well, we were joking about the oppressiveness of where the mind is sort of wired to try to find like a narrative and find like a meaning in a collection. Yeah. And when it's not really there, but I think, like you say, that has its place too. You know, that experience.
Well, I mean, a lot of these showcases are curated for a reason. I know that. You know, especially now, there was the longest time where, your expertise just didn't exist anymore. You know, like online, like somebody with a real, somebody with a medical degree has just as much. You give somebody with a medical degree just as much credence as you would somebody who's just, deciding that vaccines or whatever. So there is this idea that there's, particularly in the arts, that you don't need to have any formal training, that you can just go right out of the gate and just do something because you have a vision. But, all these guys like Kevin Smith and, they all work to get there. You know what I mean? They all had some sort of education, experience, film school guys. So, yeah, I think a lot of people think that they can just, do it. And at least they don't see it, I mean, I've been there too. Like you're always blind to your own work. So there are a few times when you can actually see it the way that other people see it, and that can be good or it can be terrifying. I've had both of those experiences. But yeah, there's a few of those that we watched, particularly at Fan Expo, that I'd like to see the look on the face of a filmmaker if they could see what we were seeing. Yeah. But that's right. It's the same for all of us. Like none of us see the same thing that anybody else does. Right. And it's always just about. That's my big thing. I'm always trying to figure out how to see it the way that other people do. Just to understand what you're doing. You want to know what you're
temper
doing.
Temper it a little bit, or it's always. I mean, there's so many variables too. Like, and you see it a lot, especially like films. The typical film school kid thing is like, it'll be maybe it is like this beautiful shot, or we shot it on the Black Magic Gizmo, whatever. Yeah. But then like the story is kind of weak, or everything else is kind of weak. And then. Kevin Smith was also talking about when he made Clerks, like, when he first saw it, it was like, oh my God, like, why are they cursing so much? Or why does this look like it was shot through a bottle of milk? But he, I mean, I guess the lesson is that, that he was able to cut through all that. So sometimes you can if the story is there or the dialogue is there, or you can find something to grab people.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I think it might have been Scorsese said that if you don't throw up the first time you look at your footage, right. You're doing something wrong. I would much rather, look at the footage and be horrified than, people who are just like 100% confident. They're like, this is the greatest thing they ever made. This is going to be great. And they're unable to look critically at their own material. And then there's some people who, like, I was working with this one guy. I'm like, why are you doing this? Because he hated every step of the process.
Like they just glorified the results of it or something, maybe.
He saw it through, like he would finish, but just like when we were shooting, it was just, he would spend the whole shoot like this, like we'd be shooting, and then and when we weren't shooting, he'd be like, that sucked. We're working on the script, that fucking sucks. We're editing, he's like, God damn it. And even when it's done, he's like, this is a piece of shit. I'm like, why are you doing this? It's
like you can never achieve your ultimate perfection.
Well, there's got to be at least, because there's some people that like to shoot, they don't like to edit. I think maybe the only part of the process he actually liked was the shooting.
That's right. That's what most people, I think that's why you get a lot of it's easy to get people, hey, do you want to be in the thing? Do you want to act? Because they think it'll be like fun and easy, and then they see that it's not, or they're just not maybe invested in the whole process.
Yeah.
Well, we got to wrap up pretty soon, in here, but we can also talk more another time. I know there's always more.
Yeah.
I mean, I should be doing podcasting out on the street at some point. We'll just sort of set up a sign, and whoever will talk to me, as opposed to me talking to myself, I think.
Well, then you're going to do a prove me wrong thing. You're going to have to go out there in body armor,
Wow, that sounds scandalous. But yeah, I mean, anything else you want to plug? Just because, like, I mean, maybe they're going to kick me out of the studio. I know that's something they've wanted to do for quite some time.
Well, I'm here now, and they just want to keep me here because they want to hear me talk because I'm so fucking interesting.
Yeah.
They're probably listening at the door right now.
So Passion of RAMGOG.
.org. Yeah.
.org. James Ristas.
Ristas. On Facebook, I'm actually James Butterfield. I changed that last name up a few times just because I'm, trying to be mysterious. So if you want to find me on, but then again, if you go to the passionoframgog.org, everything is there. You can navigate. And I will tell you, the last thing I'll say is that I did a RAMGOG deep dive on AI the other night. And it was crazy. Like, I went into AI, I'm like, what is RAMGOG? And all this shit came up.
They know
and
the
I'm
mythology.
and I'm like, really? And then I did all these follow-up questions. And, as the further you go down, the more wild it gets. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But I thought that was kind of cool. So do the RAMGOG AI deep dive.
Yeah. And so there's you said they're playing a marathon of it here, cctvcambridge.org.
Well, the thing is, we were going to do this podcast like last week. So the marathon was actually.
So that was only a one-time thing, or
well, okay. Well, here's the thing. What's great about the RAMGOG 2-minute episodes is that a lot of time on local access television, you'll have these programming gaps. Something will end just a little too early or start. So they did a marathon. They ran them all, which is about 2.5 hours. But now they're in the system, and whenever there's a gap, and they got to fill in a minute or two between programs, or it's going to slide it right in there. I think there's also a regular slot. Oh yeah, they're going to kick us out. But anyway, they'll be be on, and they're all on the web. They're all you can access them all through the website anyway. So
cool. So Michael Phelan O'Toole, check us out, experimentaleel.com. It's the Experimental Eel Podcast, episode 120, and you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts. Check it out, and come see us second Tuesday of every month at Boston Open Screen. You can check me out with Experimental Eel, the movie series, or James Ristas with Passion of RAMGOG.
Yep.
An exhibition of RAMGOG is on
Saturday the 18th of October, 7 to 9 at Industry Lab.
Cool. 2025. And where there's an ill, James, there is a way. So be part of the experiment right here on Experimental Eel.
Experimental Eel.
I think he's lost his mind. He's never been like this before. Tonight he was almost raving.
What did you say?
Oh, crazy things, that he's some kind of a spaceman, and that they're taking over the Earth, and that we're all going to die.
Don't listen to me. They told me to keep in mind the scientific and